Crazy House World Championship. We will watch a game from the third round of the qualifier, the double elimination, and this is between unjournakamura and KyleLegion. Unjournakamura being the clear favorite here by almost 200 ELO points. But KyleLegion is a strong player, and I expect to see some excellent Crazy House. And unjournakamura is seated, and let's see if KyleLegion is here. He's online as well. So hopefully the players will be starting any second now. Best out of 10 games, and in case of 5-5 there will be a tie break. And the time limit is 3 minutes, and with a 2-second increment. Let's have a brief look at the qualifying tree. We see unjournakamura and KyleLegion here. The winner will take on the winner in the match between Retarded Platypus 123 and Minehunter 0101. A lot of digits there. Who is through to the 5th round already, or 4th round? Mills Gambit will play Senescent Cell. Moloch will play the winner of Suanet and Variant Bunny. Clearcast is through, and well, a lot of strong players in the next round. And I hear that they have started. Unjournakamura playing e4. KyleLegion playing a slightly unusual opening. And it's interesting to see that in this position, white chooses not to push the pawn, which would make this a good idea, I think. But rather he keeps the tension, and this knight has nowhere to go, so I think black needs to release some tension here in the opening. Putting pressure on the d-pawn, and maybe threatening pawn at g4, picking up the d-pawn. So white secures the d4 pawn and enjoys a very nice space advantage. He could have just castled, I guess, but he goes very violently ahead with his h-pawn. And the question is, what happens if black captures? He decides it's too dangerous, but somehow I think if you're gonna play this as black, you need to be very courageous. You can't just sit there and passively let all these white pieces and the pawn and the rook and maybe the queen some later on just close in on the black king, because it's way too dangerous. You need to do something. Interesting move, g3. I suppose you can kick away the knight with rook to h3, but it's not an ideal placement for the rook. Why not pick up a pawn for free first, and then play rook h3. And that's a very healthy extra pawn, I think. And now black voluntarily opens up the h file. Surely this isn't good for black. And black doesn't have enough to chase the white king around. You can just go in this direction, I think, and then hide over here somewhere. And already just going back with a bishop is a huge threat. There is not even a good check here for black. e4 is protected by the bishop, with check I should say. And here you can just take and take. 2 knights for a rook in this position, and then putting the queen on the h file. just looks devastating. I'm pretty sure that taking with the rook was the right way to go here. There was no way for black to put a rook on the h file, and what to do about the threat of just retreating the bishop and then mating on h7. So maybe we get a game here. Now taking on h1 is not as comfortable. This check covers the rook, so it can't be taken. Maybe white should use a bishop on h7, bishop at h7, and then take the knight. Just realize the mistake that he should have taken on h1 before. And he has 4 pawns in hand. Maybe he can go bishop g6, and then when the king moves, you can go pawn f6 or something. Just go for the mating net. Yes, obviously white has a great position here, but taking on h1 earlier was, I think, a much more practical choice. And hi there, my Mad Quick Chess, and everybody else who's watching, you're welcome. And here simply, I mean, pawn at g4 will pick up this bishop. I just don't see any real counterplay for black here. You could also go for the king with pawn at h6. And then if the bishop takes here, you simply take on g7 with a mating attack. Well, the question is, how the hell do you cover this g3 knight? If it moves, white can just take and take the 2 light pieces on the h file. And there's no way to defend the knight. White can just pick up some material if he likes, take on g3, why not? Sort of a semi-bluff attack here by black, who really doesn't have anything, but at least he's pretending. In case of queen takes, there could come a knight in the corner maybe. So white takes the opportunity to check on h3 and maybe... No, never mind. Just take on f3 and now take on h6, and it's made in a few moves. And bishop at g5 should decide this game. Unjournakamura takes the lead on 1-0. And if we look at the opening here, I'm sure the computer likes... Here, castling is probably a sounder choice, but h4 is definitely a move. And simply pushing the h-pawn looks fine. Picking up the extra pawn was excellent. And this is probably already super duper winning. And even taking with the queen. Yeah, he likes taking with the queen. It's mate in 10. And surely taking with the rook is also very good here. I don't see anything. Yeah, it's made in 7 moves. So it was a bit unnecessary to play king g1, but as you see, white's advantage is just too big. And even though he makes a few not so good moves here, there's never any danger that black will get back into the game. How strong are computers in Crazy House? Well, they are very strong. Crazy House is a lot about calculation, and that's what computers excel at. So I don't think the best players stand a chance against the best computers. I enjoy playing the computers at not at the highest level, but a couple of levels down, where they occasionally make, I think, some pre-programmed mistakes. Both players have pinned their knight, the opponent's knight, and seems like maybe white got to the king first. Note that sometimes you can just maybe take here and get compensation. You get 2 pieces for the queen. I'm not sure what the best move for white is here. Maybe you take on g7 and play pawn at h6. It certainly looks inviting, because if black takes on g5, you simply take with a knight when f7 is hanging. And now everything is hanging, but I don't like the look of that move at all. I suppose white can simply take with a knight on e4, and just about everything in black's position is hanging, including the queen here. That was a strange move. But now you can take on g5, so I don't understand this at all. And what was this? Take on f3. Okay. So material-wise, black is doing very well here. He's up quite a few pawns, so if he can get the time to put the pieces on the board, he is in excellent shape here. But I don't quite understand that sequence there. I just have a feeling that someone made a big blunder. And now black will get all the time he needs to put the pieces on the board. He has 4 light pieces, 3 pawns to put on the board. Just swarm. Yeah, bishop on d5, great centralization. And just swarm white with all those pieces. Maybe pawn here on f4. Never mind the bishop, you can always recapture with the pawn. So every move now, black should put a piece on the board. And now with the G file open, there are always threats. I don't think you should care about the bishop here. Just put more pieces on the board and create threats. Probably bring your queen into the game and then recapture on g8 with the rook. And now you can gain some momentum. Knight at g5, chase the queen around a little bit. And put more pieces on the board, maybe a bishop here. And now it's really close to mate. Not clear what the pawn at h3 move was for, though. Because that gave black some unnecessary counter chances. Although there is a forced mate here that, for instance now, knight here, queen on g2 and then take on f3. This is the same. So I guess black was too well positioned in that game. So this seems good for white. Why not take on g7 and then play pawn h6? That was what I thought. And here I was thinking knight takes e4, which looks super strong. I don't understand. Let me just close the door. This looks crushing for white. But this started a bad trend. Why not take the queen? And now that the G file got open, black was suddenly better. Okay, let's get back to the game. And as we see, the same opening getting repeated. White calmly just defending the d4 pawn. And this f6 move, I think it's a sign of white is just better. White has a semi-open e-file. He has an extra pawn in hand. Black has shown his hand way too early. And black is just passive. And is this a good trick? The knight on f5 is hanging, so black needs to take with the queen. And here, what was wrong with queen to g6? Was there something wrong with queen to g6? This is getting wild here. I suppose white could have just moved his queen, although black does get some compensation then, taking on g2 maybe. But white goes for the throat. So, if black takes here, white will take on h8. And now, white will probably take on f5. Because with a knight in hand, knight g5 seems very dangerous. So, how do you attack here? Maybe pawn d5. Is that a crazy idea? And if knight takes, you take twice, sacrifice your queen, and just try to deliver mate. Yeah, he plays d5 instead of using a pawn. Maybe this is more economic. So simply give everything here on e6. Should be mate. And now pawn here. The king cannot go to h6 because of knight f7. So the knight needs to take on h5. And then queen f7 followed by some queen taking on h5 is made in a few moves. All right, 3-0 unjournakamura. And they repeat. Both players seem prepared. They repeat the same e4, e5 line as before. And snatching that pawn seems a little bit dangerous because of the e-file. But I'm not familiar with the opening theory in this line. Just seems like white could have something here. Black has brought his king into the middle of the board very early, and white has an open e-file and a slight advantage, slight initiative here. Maybe something like pawn f3 followed by knight c3, chase the queen, put the rook on the e-file. White should be doing fine here, I think. What about knight f4? Then you need to hide somewhere over here with the queen. Getting pushed around with your queen like this is rarely a comfortable experience. White might consider playing queen h5 maybe, putting pressure here. because there were some tactical threats. Queen here, maybe pawn here. You can take with the knight, maybe, when the queen would be hanging. And after a trade here, g7 would be hanging with a check. So maybe queen h5 was a strong move. Now white is threatening simply knight c4, start trading things. Black is looking for some, I was thinking take here, take back, take on d2. I thought that was the idea. And this is usually a good idea, just to disrupt the possibility of castling. If black takes, white can probably just take on e5 because queen takes d2, queen takes d2 is with check. Very important. So this looks very good for white. I see no reason why he shouldn't take on e5. And just plug something on e4, maybe a pawn or something. This is a bit loose, but maybe it's strong. You have the pin here, and you're preparing moves like knight at c5 or knight at f6. Black trying to be tricky here. Maybe bishop c3. And if black takes here, you could take back. When the d file opens, suddenly white could just push the d pawn. This simultaneously threatens the queen and also protects e5. And now taking the queen would be losing, I guess. Knight at f3 followed by pawn g2. Discovered check. Looks very dangerous. Should be winning for black. And this is tricky. This covers the checks and also saves the knight. Yeah, but I don't think it could be running very far via g3. I think it was winning for black, but we could check it out. Watch out for rook at h8, h1 mate. And white walked right into a mate. That was a pity. So better way of making use of the weaknesses here would be bishop at h6. And pawn d7, excellent move here. Nice timing by white. Bishop at g4 would have been nice just to get one more piece on the board. Bishop at c3 here was better than checking first on c5. And here black is... Oh, bishop c3 was dangerous. Queen takes c5, excellent find here. And now actually black is in the driver's seat. Bishop at f5 was better, attacking h3 and the pawn on d7. And what do you do here? Knight at e8, threatening mate, pushing the pawn. But it's not easy to defend here. And here black found a nice mate. 4-0. Let's see if KyleLegion has switched openings. Yes, he has. And unjournakamura throws a piece sacrifice at him. And black simply refuses to take the piece. Instead, I like this idea. Attacking e5 and pushing the h-pawn. e5 is hanging, so why not take it? Black is very active here with the pawns here on d4 and h5. Hi there, Goose Fraba 369. I'm just fine. Streaming some crazy house. So h5 is hanging at the moment. You could, I suppose, defend it with knight at f6. Or you can maybe just let it go. Opening the h file could be a slight boomerang for white. This cuts off the connection here with the queen and the h5 pawn. I don't quite like the look of f3. Just retreat with the bishop now. Mission accomplished. You provoked this weakening move. What is black thinking about? This is just overdoing things. The queen is well situated here on the f5, threatening at some point maybe a mate on f7. So I don't see the threats for black here. And now maybe bishop g5. Yeah, with the f file open and the e file opened, there are all sorts of threats, nasty threats here coming. If the pawn takes, you have diag f5 and then bishop g5 picking up the knight on h4. And here I suppose you can just, what do? Do you take on f3 with everything you have? Does seem like a no-brainer to take 3 times on f3. Knight c7, knight d6. Oh, wait. So in this position, yeah, you're absolutely right. White missed the forced mate here. He could have taken here. Double check on d6 and then queen e8 mate. Very pretty. Well spotted, Morten. Sometimes when you have a good position, you just get blind, I suppose. And now if black can get his hands on a knight to h3 would be nice. Well, what do? Do you keep on taking whatever black is offering? A lot of pieces piling up here in white's hand. But will he get the chance to put it on the board? This is usually a good idea, just to get a piece on the board, tie up the opponent's pieces a little bit. Because if, in case of c6, there's additional knight at c7 ideas. And you certainly don't want to retreat here. So you take everything with check, but where's the next check? Now there's a... Okay, what's happening here? Now it's mate. But the end there, was it very precise? Maybe it was just winning. Here actually black is fine. Let's see after the opening here. Yeah, just move the bishop away. Why give a bishop for a pawn and activate the white pieces? And knight takes e6, a very strong move. And knight takes c7 is indeed forced mate in 3. And again he missed it. And here actually black is better. Rook d1 was better, tying up the white forces. And c6 here makes a lot of sense. And why didn't he take on c6 first here? I don't understand, because this knight was covering e5. But maybe it's made anyway. What happens if you take on d8 now then? This was my main concern. Queen at f5. Okay, well, it should be winning anyway. Knight takes. Yeah, made in a few moves. So what's this? Let's just make a quick recap. KyleLegion switched to d4. And I don't like the c4 setup here. It's just too slow, too weakening, and gives black the opportunity to pin this and maybe counter in the center. This is it's good in chess, but in Crazy House this just looks bad. So maybe you put the knight on f2 and pick up a rook. There's also knight at e3 check. Knight at e3 resigns. Black has everything here. Just take c4, get a pawn. Queen b2 is strong. But I mean, taking here and opening the d file Looks quite crushing. Threatening mate here on d2. Maybe just retreat with threats of queen at c2. No, queen at g5 was a bit unnecessary, I think. Black has resources so he can defend here, but it was definitely not the best move. Because white has some defensive resources here. He can run with the king in this direction if it gets hot on the queen side. I was thinking black should have played pawn g7 first, but oh, this is just too passive. And why didn't he pick up the rook? And why? Aha, okay, he created a mating net there, and it was actually quite pretty. White missed it. Oh well. I wonder how the position is here. If you play pawn g7, it's probably super good for black anyway, but at least you need to do some work here. So already here, as you can see, the computer doesn't like the white position. d5 is an excellent move here. A pawn for a3 is a great way to put pressure. And better was taking c3, taking c4, yeah. When white can't take back because of the knight c2 check. But this is also good for black. Although white could have defended better here, I think, yeah. Never mind. This was a clear 6-0 victory for unjournakamura, who is through to the next round. And let's see. Queen at b2, bishop at b2. How about this? Because it seems so natural, I think. Yeah. Let's check the calendar. Anyone else playing Cross Online versus Igor Bugmate? Is that the losers bracket or? And tomorrow we have Suanet versus Variant Bunny. That will be interesting to watch. Dark Affliction, Legion Destroyer, Blitzer 88, Maple Kev. A lot of strong matches coming up here. Yeah, the visual Dennis mugwort is Crazy House 960. It has another color, so it's another tournament. It's not the Crazy House World Championship. Maybe I'll see you tonight at 8. We'll see. We have 2 matches to cover then. Anyway, it's getting close to the really strong heavyweight bouts in the next round. So a lot of nice Crazy House to look forward to. Let's see if I can raid someone. No one I am following is playing. So I guess I'll just say thank you for watching and see you again.